Welcome to How I'd Write, a segment in which I, the Alpha J, take an episode, or more specifically an episode's plot, and reimagine it through my eyes to make it work out better. Please note that this is an opinion and that I don't take many factors into account, such as certain demographics or length or whatnot. This is merely me stating a concept, not a script or play-by-play explanation, but simply how I would write an episode. So today we're going to talk about an episode from Fishhooks called Doggonit. It was a fairly simple episode from Fishhooks. And if cartoons use a 3-act structure like in movies and plays, they made it very apparent in this one. Act 1, they get the dog. Act 2, Oscar does not care about the dog. And Act 3, Oscar gets saved by the dog, therefore liking it. I just explained the entire episode, but I'm going to go a bit more in depth for people who may have not seen this episode before. So they focus on Oscar and his brand new gaming chair. Milo comes home with a dog, but not just any dog, a dog so big that throughout the entire episode, all we see is this giant photoshopped leg. I guess what it's going for is for realism, but I have some questions about that later. It is revealed that B joined the dog rescuing group, claiming that dogs are just like fish because they have feelings. I didn't find that to be much of a problem. Fishhooks never prides itself on being serious. So they go through all of the dog cliches, bathing it, teaching it tricks, feeding him treats. Of course, Oscar is rejecting the dog because of his size and responsibility, so Oscar is the one getting all the punishment that Milo and B ignore. So when they go to buy more stuff because of a sale, Oscar speaks his mind to the dog, Murphy, and Murphy ends up smashing Oscar's gaming chair that they focus the entire first 2 acts on, and the dog runs away. Oscar lies about whatever Milo is going off on a tangent about, and they go off and search for him. Climax, and Oscar gets saved. So now everyone loves each other, except they use that ending that just repeats the beginning part of the conflict, which is the fact that Milo got a pet for no reason, which means that it's just gonna be a forever plot spawning bigger and bigger, more reckless pets. So 95% of the problem with this episode revolves around this dog being as huge as he is. I get that you're in a pet store, but why is this realistic dog much better than a fish dog? I mean, if you made the dog smaller, 95% of all the problems in this episode are gone. Sure, you'd have to iron out some wrinkles in the story and change him from smashing things with his large feet to possibly biting or merely tipping things over. In reality, most of this is an Oscar torture episode, for being responsible and not thinking on impulse. It's also an added screw you, Oscar, because nothing that B or Milo cared about is broken. There's a reason why we go crazy at other people's parties, The other 5% aren't really specific to this episode, but it's tinier, more specific problems. Like realism. You want me to believe that this dog was on these shelves and no one did a thing? So here is how I would write Doggonit. This episode is going to have similar elements to the original episode. I start out with Oscar and his gaming chair. This will be the prime focus of the first act because this will play a crucial role in the conflict. You can show Oscar having fun in this limited edition chair. Milo bursts through the door and talks to Oscar, but Oscar is focused on the game. So as Milo is talking, Oscar does not know about the dog running around. It isn't until the dog either walks on the game system turning it off or bumps into him, whichever you think will get the point across better, that he realizes that there's a dog in his home tank. This dog will be small like a fish. Even if it doesn't have the features, they can get across a dog without it being 2 feet. So of course Oscar rejects the idea, only for B to be walking in wearing something very nice to convince Oscar otherwise. She would say that she's a part of the dog rescuing group and that dogs have feelings, and Oscar eventually relaxes and allows the dog to stay. He would state that it's a lot of responsibility and that he doesn't want it anywhere near his chair. So they dive into the dog cliches, bathing him, feeding him, and teaching him tricks. While Oscar is bathing him, he's looking back at the chair, the wonderful, magnificent, limited edition gaming chair of awesomeness. He daydreams about being in the game, having this immersion flashback, and wait a minute, did I just say immersion flashback? He watches other people play and even goes over to play with the set with another kid or teen, or I really don't know how the age goes in Bikini Bottom. But he gets engulfed in a toy. Maybe even having a real immersion flashback as if he was the one in the Krusty Krab at the time and controlled how the other staff acted. Okay, I know. But this one's different. Oscar eventually wakes up, and you can do a joke of him attacking something as if he thinks he's actually still in the video game, only for him to fade into reality and have him either attacking Milo or the chair or the thin air water. Milo and B explain to Oscar that they're leaving the dog with him and that he needs to walk him. Milo makes it very clear, so he throws a leash at Oscar and it can either turn on the game, accidentally luring Oscar into trying to play it, or just hit him and have him play the game later. But my point is, the conflict starts when Oscar goes back to playing the video game. Of course, the dog starts barking because he really wants to go. However, Oscar shrugs it off as him being hyper. He even takes it a step further and puts on his headphones while he's playing his video game to fully enjoy the experience. Eventually, after he completes the game, he looks down at the leash and remembers that he was supposed to take Murphy out to use the bathroom. Then at that moment, Bee and Milo walk in to see Oscar and Nervous Wreck, which they just chalk up to Oscar just being Oscar, but the dog is missing. Oscar would just lie and go whatever Milo was talking about. This is another moment where the episode can be similar to the original. So now, here's where the episode can go one of two ways. The first way is to have an anticlimactic ending where they go looking for the dog, going west or left, whichever, and they think they find the dog only to realize that it's a fish gang's dog and Oscar takes the punishment for being neglectful. They can have moments like this of close calls, only to go home, only to realize that it was actually the neighbor on the right or the east side that had the dog, and it went to the bathroom on his lawn. The second way is to have a dramatic ending and have the dog be at the falls or somewhere in a tank to make it more realistic, because Fish Hooks is about being more on the realistic side, I hope. Have them all jump into the falls and rescue him, all with the drama and all that, or you can throw a wink to the audience and have a wide shot of them all thrashing in like 4-foot water, making it more dramatic than it really is. If not, have Milo and Bee jump out with the dog, except Oscar, who is still in the waterfalls, and he falls to his doom. And by doom, it could be anywhere from being scared to death to a minor injury. This will lead into the resolution of Oscar apologizing, Milo and Bee forgiving, and the dog either being sent to a nice shelter or Bee taking care of him. That is how I would write Doggonit in a nutshell. I know this How I'd Write episode is a bit longer, and that's because in the first one I didn't review Waiting because it's just universally known as being a not good episode. But with an episode like this, it can be much harder to explain what's wrong with it if you didn't see it in the first place. Also, this episode is part of a series that isn't airing episodes anymore. Does that mean I'll do a Would I Reboot series on it? Not anytime soon. I'm only on the first series, and April's coming up, and I have a lot more to do than watch Oscar get his butt kicked all the time. So if you like this episode, let me know in the comments below. I read and reply to as many comments as I can, and make sure to hit that like button to support me. And if you like my content so far, make sure to subscribe. I'm not going anywhere, and I hope your day was well spent. And Alpha out.